The void between stars held secrets that most civilizations learned to ignore. Some frequencies carried death, and the smart species knew to block them out, pretend they never existed at all. The Galactic Council had marked frequency 847.2 MHz as forbidden territory 3 million years ago, and every species that joined the Council learned this rule first. Do not listen. Do not respond. Do not investigate. Ruth Okonkwo floated in the observation dome of Neptune Station, watching ice crystals drift past the reinforced glass. The monitoring equipment hummed behind her, tracking radio signals from across the solar system and beyond. Most days brought nothing interesting. Solar flares, pulsar echoes, the occasional garbled transmission from mining operations in the asteroid belt. Today felt different. The computer chimed. Ruth pushed herself toward the console, her body spinning slowly in the low gravity. The screen showed a signal pattern unlike anything in the database. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers arranged in spirals, and underneath it all a steady pulse that made her skin prickle. "You seeing this?" Robert Adami drifted through the hatchway, his engineering coveralls stained with grease from repairs on the oxygen recyclers. "Started 20 minutes ago," Ruth said. "Coming from outside the galaxy. Sculptor region, maybe. The pattern repeats every 27.3 hours. Robert studied the readout. "That's artificial, no question about it." "There's more." Ruth pulled up a secondary screen. "I've been picking up other signals too. Dozens of them, all broadcasting on adjacent frequencies. They're jamming signals, trying to drown out the first one." "Who would do that?" "I don't know, but someone really doesn't want this message getting through." The station's small crew gathered in the common area an hour later. 6 people living on the edge of human-explored space, watching the outer planets and listening for anything unusual. Commander Hayes appeared on the video screen from Earth, his face creased with concern. "You're absolutely certain about the jamming?" he asked. "Positive," Ruth said. "Multiple sources, coordinated effort. And sir, I managed to isolate a fragment of one transmission. It's not human language." The screen went quiet for several long seconds. Lightspeed lag made conversations with Earth feel like talking to ghosts, words arriving from the past. "Send me everything," Hayes finally said. "And Ruth, don't respond to that signal, not until we understand what we're dealing with." 3 weeks passed. Neptune Station continued monitoring while Earth's best minds analyzed the data. Ruth couldn't stop thinking about those prime numbers, the way they spiraled outward like a galaxy's arms. Someone had put enormous effort into making this message universal, understandable to any species capable of receiving it. The jamming intensified. More sources joined the effort, some using technology that made Earth's best transmitters look like children's toys. Whoever these civilizations were, they had power humanity could barely imagine, and they were terrified of something. Ruth broke protocol on the 21st day. She isolated the core signal, stripped away interference, and let the computer extrapolate the full message. What emerged made her hands shake. Coordinates, a location in the Sculptor galaxy roughly 3 million light-years away, and woven through the mathematics something that felt like a question. The computer's translation algorithm struggled, spitting out fragments. Worth, value, beyond survival. When Hayes contacted the station again, his message was brief. "The decision's been made at the highest levels. We're sending a ship. You'll be science officer, Ruth. Get ready." The Wanderer launched from Earth orbit 6 months later. Sleek and experimental, it carried humanity's first true faster-than-light drive, technology that had taken 50 years to develop. 40 crew members volunteered, knowing they might never return. Anne Bishop commanded, a woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen combat in the Titan conflicts 20 years prior. Ruth stood in the ship's lab as Earth shrank behind them, replaced by the infinite dark. She thought about her daughter back home, 7 years old and fascinated by stars. Would she understand why her mother had to go? Second thoughts. Anne appeared in the doorway, moving with the careful grace of someone who had spent decades in variable gravity. Just thinking about what we're flying toward, Ruth said. Those jamming signals, they're warnings. Every instinct says we should turn around. But you won't suggest that. No, Ruth smiled despite herself. Humans don't turn around, it's kind of our thing. The FTL drive engaged 3 days later. Reality twisted, stretched, then snapped back into a new configuration. Stars shifted positions in the view screen. Navigation confirmed they had crossed thousands of light years in subjective minutes. Next jump in 6 hours, the pilot announced. 5 more after that and we'll reach the coordinates. David Patel found Ruth in the galley, staring at her untouched meal. You need to eat, he said, the ship's doctor falling naturally into the role of caretaker. I decoded more of the message, Ruth said quietly. There's a warning buried in it, something about trials, about species that came before. And failed. The warning doesn't say, it just ends, like whoever sent it didn't finish or couldn't. Hannah Reeves joined them, the linguist's tablet covered in translation attempts. I think I know what the question means, she said. It's asking what we value more than staying alive, what we'd protect even if it meant our own extinction. The three of them sat in silence, considering that. Outside the view screen, unfamiliar constellations burned in patterns no human had ever seen. The Wanderer made its final jump 7 days after leaving Earth. What they found waiting in the Sculptor Galaxy would change everything humanity thought it knew about intelligence, survival, and the nature of civilization itself. Debris filled the space around them. Thousands of wrecked ships, their designs ranging from elegant curves to brutal angles, all torn apart by forces that left metal twisted like paper. Some looked ancient, their hulls corroded by cosmic radiation. Others seemed almost new. At the center of the graveyard floated a perfect black sphere, 2 kilometers across, drinking in light and giving nothing back. The signal pulsed from inside it, steady and patient, waiting for someone to answer. Anne Bishop had commanded ships through asteroid fields and plasma storms, but nothing prepared her for the silence of a mass grave. The debris field stretched for hundreds of thousands of kilometers in every direction. Scanners identified hull fragments from at least 80 distinct technological paradigms, some using materials Earth scientists couldn't classify. How long has this been here? Robert asked from the engineering station. Dating suggests the oldest wrecks are 3.2 million years old, Ruth said, her voice barely above a whisper. The newest are maybe 2 centuries. Hannah zoomed in on a piece of wreckage drifting past. Symbols covered its surface, flowing script that looked almost musical. That's a language. I've never seen anything like it, but it's definitely writing. They left messages before they died. Can you translate? Anne asked. Give me time. But Captain, look at the damage patterns. These ships weren't destroyed in battle. It's like they were crushed, compressed by something that ignored their shields and armor completely. The black sphere dominated the view screen now, impossibly smooth and featureless. No seams, no hatches, no indication that anything intelligent had built it. The signal emerged from its core, mathematical and pure. Probe ready, Robert announced. Standard configuration with extra memory for recording. Launch it, Anne said. The small device accelerated toward the sphere, cameras transmitting clear images back to the Wanderer. It crossed half the distance without incident, then 3/4. When it touched the sphere's surface, the transmission simply stopped. One moment the probe existed, the next it was gone without even a flash of light. Did it explode? David asked. No explosion, Robert said. It just stopped being there, like reality had a gap and the probe fell through it. A new contact appeared on sensors, approaching fast from galactic north. The ship that materialized was enormous, easily 10 times the Wanderer's size. Its hull resembled an insect's carapace, all smooth curves and iridescent surfaces. "They're hailing us," the communications officer said. The being that appeared on screen stood on 4 legs, with 4 more limbs that might be arms or manipulators. Its head was triangular, compound eyes reflecting light in rainbow patterns. When it spoke, the computer struggled to translate. "Human vessel, you must leave this place immediately. I am High Arbiter Kell of the Galactic Council. This region is quarantined under the oldest laws." Anne straightened in her chair. "This is Captain Anne Bishop of Earth. We received a signal from this location. We came to investigate." "Of course you did." Kell's translator gave the words a bitter edge. "Every species receives the signal eventually. The intelligent ones ignore it. You are the first humans we have encountered. Please do not let your species be remembered for such foolishness." "What is this place?" Ruth asked, leaning into view of the camera. Kell's limbs shifted in what might be a gesture of resignation. "We call it the predecessor's trial. 3 million years ago, a civilization existed that made the current council races look like insects scraping in dirt. They vanished, leaving only these spheres scattered across 7 galaxies. Every species that enters one seeking their knowledge dies, all of them, without exception." "How many species have tried?" Anne asked. 83 that we know of, perhaps more before the council formed. The oldest wrecks here predate our historical records." Kell moved closer to their camera. "Please, Captain, whatever you think you might gain, it is not worth extinction. Your species is young. You could have futures beyond your imagining if you simply turn away." Hannah had been studying her tablet, cross-referencing Kell's language patterns with the signal. "High Arbiter, have you translated the message inside the signal?" "We know what it says, a question with no good answer." "What do you value beyond survival?" Hannah said. "That's what it's asking, isn't it?" Kell's eyes flickered. "Yes, and every species that answered is dead. Some tried to prove their strength, others their intelligence. A few offered peace and cooperation. The sphere accepted them all and none returned." "Maybe they're not dead," David said quietly. "Maybe they found something inside worth staying for." "Your optimism is admirable and dangerous," Kell said. "I have 30 warships arriving within the hour. If you attempt to enter that sphere, I am authorized to destroy your vessel to prevent contamination of your homeworld with whatever killed the others." Anne considered her options. Earth Command had given her broad discretion, but had also emphasized the need for caution. Losing 40 crew and humanity's only FTL ship would be catastrophic, but she had seen the question in the signal, felt its pull. Humanity had spent its entire history asking what made life worth living beyond simple survival. Artists starved to create beauty. Scientists died seeking truth. Parents sacrificed everything for children who might never know their names. "Ruth, what's your analysis?" Anne asked. "The sphere responds to approach. Our probe triggered some kind of reaction even though we couldn't detect it. I think it's selective, choosing what it accepts based on criteria we don't understand." "Robert, could we survive Kell's fleet if they attack?" "Not a chance, Captain. Their smallest ship outguns us completely." Anne nodded slowly. She opened a channel to the entire crew. "Everyone listen. We came here to investigate a mystery that every advanced civilization in the galaxy has learned to fear. High Arbiter Kell has offered us a chance to leave safely, but I think they're wrong about one thing. I don't believe the species that entered that sphere died. I think they failed a test, and it's a test I believe humanity can pass. I'm going to answer the signal, but only if every member of this crew agrees. We vote now. Stay or go." The responses came quickly. 40 voices, 40 affirmatives. Not from arrogance or stupidity, but from something deeper. The same drive that had pushed humans to cross oceans in wooden boats, to climb mountains that killed most who tried, to reach for stars they could barely see. Ruth worked her console, assembling humanity's answer to the sphere's question. Music from 1,000 cultures. Images of parents holding children. Video of people diving into floods to save strangers. The moment humans first walked on the moon, the recorded voice of a woman reading poetry to the blind, a teacher protecting students during an attack, everything that showed what humans chose to value even when survival screamed at them to run. The transmission beamed toward the sphere at light speed, carrying the weight of human civilization compressed into pure data. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the sphere opened. A circular portal appeared on its surface, perfectly smooth edges revealing a passage filled with soft light. No alarms, no weapons, no threats. Just an invitation. 12 humans crossed the threshold in environment suits, tethered together by safety cables that felt absurdly inadequate. Anne led, with Ruth and Robert flanking her. David carried medical equipment he hoped would be useless. Hannah brought recording devices to document whatever they found. 8 others completed the team, each a specialist in fields that might matter or might be completely irrelevant. The passage should have been dark, a tunnel through solid material. Instead, it glowed with ambient light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The walls felt warm through insulated gloves. After 20 meters, the passage opened into a chamber so vast the ceiling vanished into darkness above. Holographic displays covered every surface. Thousands of them, maybe millions, each showing a different alien species. Some were humanoid, others defied description. Beings made of crystalline structures, clouds of gas with consciousness, things that looked like living mathematics. "These are records," Hannah said, her voice hushed through the comm system. "Every species that entered, look, there are timestamps." Ruth approached the nearest display. It showed a species of 6-limbed beings with elongated skulls and skin that shifted colors. The timestamp read 2.8 million years prior. She touched the hologram and it expanded, showing the beings entering this same chamber. They had come in force, hundreds of them armed with weapons that crackled with energy. The recording showed them advancing through a doorway that appeared at the chamber's far end. Ruth fast-forwarded through the timestamp. 40 minutes after entering, the hologram showed them dead. All of them. Their bodies lay in another chamber, unmarked but clearly lifeless. "They attacked something," Robert said, watching over her shoulder. "See the scorch marks, they fought." "Against what?" David asked. The hologram didn't show an enemy. Just the aliens firing at shadows, expending their weapons against threats that might not have existed. Hannah found another record, this one from 800,000 years ago. A species of aquatic beings in mechanical suits had entered with gifts, art, technology, samples of their culture. The recording showed them presenting these offerings to an empty room. Like the first species, they had died, but these bodies showed no injuries. They had simply stopped living. "Is this supposed to scare us?" one of the crew asked. "Show us failure after failure until we leave." "I don't think so," Ruth said. "I think it's showing us what not to do. Look at the progression. Every species approached this differently and every approach failed. But the sphere keeps inviting more. It wants someone to succeed." A doorway materialized in the chamber's far wall, exactly where the holograms had shown it appearing for every other species. Blue light spilled through it, cool and inviting. Anne checked her team's vital signs, all normal. Oxygen reserves good for another 6 hours. "We go forward, slow and careful. Hannah, keep recording everything. If we die, maybe the next species will learn from our mistakes." The next chamber was smaller, more intimate. A holographic planet rotated in its center, clearly Earth. Continents in their current configuration, weather patterns streaming across the blue oceans. As the team watched, the planet changed. Cities appeared, then spread like a rash across every landmass. The atmosphere darkened. Temperature indicators rose. Then ships appeared in orbit, not human ships. These were brutal, angular things that looked designed only for destruction. Weapons struck Earth's surface. Cities burned. Billions died in seconds. "It's a simulation," Robert said. "A tactical problem. How would we respond to invasion?" Anne studied the holographic controls that appeared at her gesture. She could command defensive forces, deploy weapons, evacuate populations. The invading fleet was larger, more advanced, nearly impossible to defeat through military force alone. She made her choice quickly, designated every major city for evacuation, moved the population to underground shelters and remote areas, used military forces not to attack the invaders but to buy time for civilians to escape. When the simulation invasion force landed, they found empty cities. No resources worth taking, no populations to subjugate. The hologram showed the invasion fleet eventually withdrawing. Resource-intensive occupation of a barren planet made no strategic sense. Humanity survived, diminished but intact. The chamber accepted this answer. The Earth hologram faded, replaced by a new scenario. This one showed the team themselves, still in this chamber. But now a wall collapsed, revealing alien civilians. They were injured, dying, their species unknown. At the same time, another wall showed the team's shuttle being damaged by debris. The choice was clear. Use time and resources to save strangers or ensure the team's own survival. "We can do both," Robert said immediately. He started calculating, muttering about weight distribution and oxygen reserves. "The simulation might not allow that," Ruth warned. "Then we make it allow it." Robert worked the holographic controls, dividing the team into two groups. One would repair the shuttle with minimal personnel. The other would provide emergency aid to the civilians. It required perfect timing and consumed supplies they might need later. The simulation ran. Both groups succeeded barely. The civilians survived, so did the humans. Another acceptance. The chamber shifted again. This time no scenario appeared. Instead, a figure formed from pure light. It approximated a humanoid shape, but its edges flickered and flowed like flame. When it spoke, the voice resonated in their minds rather than their ears. "You are different from the others. They came with strength or gifts or logic. You came with questions and chose preservation over victory. Why?" Anne stepped forward. "Because victory means nothing if everyone you care about is dead. Because strangers deserve help as much as friends. Because the strongest civilizations are the ones that protect the weak." Beautiful words, but every species speaks beautifully about their values. Show me proof. Show me that humans live by these principles even when it costs them everything. The chamber transformed around them. The walls became transparent, revealing the wanderer outside, and surrounding it, Kel's fleet, weapons charging. "They believe you are contaminated," the light being said. "They will destroy your ship and everyone aboard it in approximately 4 minutes. You can save yourselves by staying here. The sphere will protect you. Or you can return to your ship and face certain death. Choose." Ruth looked at Anne. "There are 28 crew members still aboard." "I know," Anne said. "We can't save them from in here." "No, we can't." David checked his chronometer. 3 minutes 40 seconds. Anne turned to face the light being. "This isn't a fair test. You're asking us to die for people who might already be dead." "Fairness is a concept for species that value balance over compassion. You claimed humans protect others even at great cost. Prove it." Anne gathered her team with a gesture. They huddled together, helmets nearly touching. No discussion was needed. Every face showed the same determination. "We go back," Anne said, "all of us, whatever happens." The light being expanded, its radiance filling the chamber. Finally, someone chooses correctly. The portal home appeared instantly. The team burst back through the sphere's portal, expecting weapons fire, alarms, chaos. Instead, they found the Wanderer intact, Kel's fleet holding position at a respectful distance. The chronometer showed that only 16 minutes had passed outside despite hours spent inside the sphere. "Captain, you're alive." The relief in the communications officer's voice was palpable. "We've been monitoring but couldn't risk sending anyone after you." "Everyone accounted for," Anne asked, already running through the head count. All present, but Captain, something happened while you were inside. The sphere sent a transmission to everyone. Every ship in this system received it, and apparently it broadcasted across the entire galaxy. Ruth pulled up the message on her datapad. Her hands trembled slightly as she read. The transmission contained a simple statement in every known language, including human English and dozens Earth had never encountered. Humanity has passed the first trial. They chose compassion over survival. They chose strangers over certainty. They proved that strength without wisdom is merely violence, and that true civilization measures itself by who it protects, not who it conquers. Kel's face appeared on the main view screen. The High Arbiter's expression was unreadable through the translation software, but their voice carried unmistakable shock. This is impossible. No species has passed even the first chamber in 3 million years. Our own ancestors failed. The greatest civilizations in galactic history failed. How did you succeed where they could not? We didn't try to conquer it, Anne said simply. We just tried to be human. That explains nothing, doesn't it? Hannah joined the conversation, her translator still working on fragments of data from the sphere. Every species you mentioned came with either weapons or tribute. They approached the sphere like it was a test of strength or worthiness. But it wasn't testing those things. It was testing whether a civilization had learned that some things matter more than winning. The light being's voice suddenly filled every speaker on every ship in the system. The predecessors built these spheres across 7 galaxies. We were a civilization that mastered matter, energy, even time itself. But we failed at the only thing that mattered. We achieved transcendence and lost our humanity, metaphorically speaking. We became pure thought, pure mathematics, eternal and empty. Holographic projections appeared in the space around the sphere, showing vast cities that defied physics, technology that looked like magic, beings of pure energy moving between stars like thoughts. Then it showed those same beings realizing their mistake. They had gained everything and lost the capacity to care about it. We created the trials hopping to find a species that would choose differently, the being continued. A civilization that valued connection over power, that would rather die together than live alone in omnipotence. Humanity is the first to show us that such a species exists. For this, we offer you a choice. The sphere's surface reconfigured, opening 3 distinct portals. Above each, holographic text appeared in human languages. The first portal showed visions of incredible technology, ships that crossed galaxies in heartbeats, weapons that could reshape planets, medicine that eliminated death itself. The text read, "Accept the gift of transcendence, become like us. Know everything, control everything. Lose everything that makes you mortal and fragile and beautifully, foolishly alive." The second portal showed humanity's future without intervention. Wars, famines, environmental collapse, eventual extinction like most organic species. But also love, art, discovery, and the messy glory of conscious beings struggling to matter in an indifferent universe. The text read, "Refuse our gift. Remain as you are. Face your fate with only your own strength." The third portal showed something different, a library. Not physical books, but streams of data, art, philosophy, and history from a billion-year civilization. Knowledge without power, understanding without control. The text read, "Take our memory, learn from our mistakes, help others find the path we missed, become guardians of the trial." Anne looked at her crew. 40 faces watching her, waiting for a decision that would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever. Ruth, your analysis. The first option is a trap. Even if it's sincere, we'd lose what makes us human. The beings said it themselves. They regret transcendence. Robert. Second option is honest but grim. We're not ready for what's out there. We'd be alone against civilizations millions of years older. David. The third option is about service, helping others. That feels right. Hannah had been studying the predecessor's message. Captain, there's more in the data stream. The predecessors are offering humanity a unique role, ambassador species. We'd have access to all their trial sites. We could help other civilizations understand what you understood in there, that the tests aren't about being strong. They're about being good. Anne thought of her daughter back on Earth, 7 years old and full of questions about the stars. What future did she deserve? What future did humanity deserve? We choose the third portal, Anne said. We'll take the knowledge and help others. But I want to add a condition. The predecessors keep broadcasting their signal, keep offering the trial, and humanity commits to helping any species that wants to attempt it, not as conquerors or teachers, but as partners, as friends. The light being pulsed with something that might have been joy. You continue to surprise us. You pass our test and immediately think of helping others pass it too. This is precisely why you succeeded where our own species failed. Your condition is accepted. The third portal expanded. Data flooded into the Wanderer's computers, vast archives of art, science, philosophy, and history. Crew members gasped as their screens filled with wonders. Music in mathematical forms human composers never imagined. Proofs for theorems Earth's greatest minds had declared impossible. Records of civilizations that rose, thrived, and fell across billions of years. Kel watched this unfold with visible distress. You are giving them predecessor knowledge, freely. Do you understand how this will destabilize the galactic order? Your order was built on fear, the being replied. Fear of the trials, fear of what lay beyond your understanding. Humanity has shown us that a better order is possible, one built on cooperation and compassion rather than control. The Council will never accept this. Then perhaps it is time for a new council. Anne saw the calculation in Kel's eyes. The High Arbiter commanded 30 warships, and the humans had one experimental vessel. But destroying them now would mean defying the predecessors themselves, entities with power that made the Council look like children with sticks. I must report this to the full Council, Kel said finally. They will want to verify your claims, meet with your representatives, understand what you have become. We haven't become anything, Anne said. We're still just humans, still figuring things out, still making mistakes. But we're willing to help others figure things out too. That's all we're offering. The Wanderer's sensors detected movement. More ships arriving, dozens of them, from species the database couldn't identify. They weren't council vessels. These were independents, explorers, refugees from species that had left the council or never joined. Messages flooded the communication channels, all saying variations of the same thing. You passed the trial, teach us how. 3 months after the trial, Ruth stood in what humans were calling the Unity Station, watching ships dock from 17 different species. The station itself was a gift from the predecessors, assembled by technology that still made Earth's engineers weep with confusion. It orbited a neutron star in neutral space, belonging to no government or council. Anne had resigned her Earth commission to run the academy they were building. Hannah coordinated translation efforts, creating a database of languages and concepts that help species communicate across vastly different ways of thinking. Robert worked with alien engineers, finding common ground in the universal language of mathematics and physics. David treated injuries and ailments from species with biochemistry human medicine had never encountered. The first class assembled in the central amphitheater. 30 beings from 15 species, including 2 from council races who had come without official approval. They ranged from beings that breathed methane to crystalline entities that communicated through light pulses. Anne addressed them without notes, speaking through a translation system that turned her words into formats each species could understand. You came here expecting to learn tactics, ways to defeat the trial through cleverness or strength. That's not what we're teaching. We're going to show you human culture, our art, our philosophy, our failures and triumphs. Because the trial doesn't care about your weapons or your technology. It cares about who you are when everything else is stripped away. A being from a species called the wreath, resembling a crystalline spider, pulsed with light. The translator converted it to speech. Our civilization has existed for 40,000 years. We have conquered disease, mastered our star system, created art that exists in dimensions your species cannot perceive. What can you possibly teach us? How to fail, Anne said simply, and how to care about others despite that failure. Your species attempted the trial 600 years ago according to predecessor records. You brought your finest warriors, your brightest scientists, representatives of your greatest achievements. They all died in the first chamber. Do you know why? The wreath's light dimmed. The records were incomplete. We assumed they were killed by defense systems. They killed each other, Hannah said, pulling up the holographic record. The trial showed them a scenario where only half could survive. They spent 17 minutes calculating the most logical individuals to save. The ones with the highest intelligence, the strongest genetics, the most valuable skills. Then they executed the others to conserve resources. The amphitheater fell silent. The wreath's light pulsed in what their physiology indicated was distress. The trial was testing whether you valued all life, or just useful life, Ruth explained. Humans have murdered each other plenty. We're not morally superior, but we've also learned that the person society deems least useful today might be the one who saves everyone tomorrow. We've learned that every individual consciousness is a universe unto itself, precious and irreplaceable. Over the following weeks, the curriculum unfolded in unexpected ways. Anne didn't lecture. Instead, she showed them human history, the good and the terrible, slavery and abolition, wars and peace treaties, the Holocaust and the people who hid their neighbors at risk of death, the Rwandan genocide and the Tutsis who protected Hutus despite being targeted themselves. You are showing us your species' worst moments, an aquatic being named Tiv observed. This seems counterproductive. We're showing you that we know what we are, David said. Humans are capable of extraordinary cruelty, but we're also capable of extraordinary compassion. The trial wants to know which one you'll choose when it costs you everything. Robert introduced them to human engineering philosophy. Other species see a problem and build the most efficient solution. Humans build solutions that account for human error, for tiredness, for bad days. We assume we'll make mistakes and design systems that forgive them. That's not inefficiency. That's compassion for our own limitations. The students struggled with concepts Earth took for granted. That strength could mean restraint. That intelligence included emotional awareness. That the most advanced civilizations might be measured not by their technology, but by how they treated their weakest members. Halfway through the program, Kell arrived with a full council delegation. The High Arbiter's ship docked with obvious reluctance. The council chamber on Unity Station had been prepared for this meeting, a space designed to accommodate wildly different physiologies. Kell spoke first. The council has debated humanity's role for 89 standard days. We are divided. Some species see you as dangerous anomalies who will destabilize a galactic order that has maintained peace for millennia. Others see you as proof that the council has become stagnant, afraid of growth. I am here to determine which perspective is correct. You're here to audit us, Anne said, to see if we're worthy of your approval. With respect, High Arbiter, we don't need your approval. We need your participation. Explain. Ruth activated a holographic display showing 3 more species attempting predecessor trials at distant sites. Since we passed, 7 species have attempted trials across the galaxy. 3 have succeeded. All 3 sought our guidance first. 4 failed and were destroyed. Those 4 refused to work with us, viewing it as weakness to accept help from a younger species. Kell studied the data, and you believe council oversight prevents species from seeking assistance. I believe your rules about quarantine and forbidden frequencies mean species attempt the trials in secret, Hannah said. They die alone because they're too proud to ask for help and too afraid of council punishment to admit they tried. Tiv, the aquatic being, rose from her support cradle. High Arbiter, I must confess something. My species attempted the trial 800 years ago. This is not new information to you. What you do not know is that I petitioned the council 17 times to allow another attempt with human guidance. I was refused every time, so I came here without permission. Other beings stirred. Whispered conversations in a dozen languages created a susurrus of sound. Tiv continued. The humans taught me something our species never understood. The trial is not about proving superiority. It is about acknowledging connection. We failed because we brought our champions. We should have brought our poets. Kel's compound eyes reflected the holographic light. If the Council permits humanity to continue this work, you will fundamentally alter how species develop. Some will embrace your philosophy. Others will reject it. The galaxy will fracture. It's already fractured, Anne said. Species that never join the Council, that operate in the spaces between your authority, are coming to us. We've had contact from civilizations you've never heard of. The choice isn't whether the galaxy changes. It's whether the Council participates in that change or becomes irrelevant to it. Before Kel could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. Robert's voice came over the intercom. We have a problem. Big one. Multiple ships just dropped out of FTL at the system's edge. Configuration matches Council military vessels, but they're not broadcasting Council identification codes. Anne pulled up tactical displays. 30 warships in attack formation, moving toward Unity Station. The lead vessel was massive, easily 5 times the size of anything in Kel's delegation. Those are General Rax's ships, Kel said, their translator conveying dread. He commands the Council's hardline faction, the species that believe change itself is a threat. Are they here to talk? Ruth asked, though she already knew the answer. No, they are here to eliminate what they perceive as a threat to galactic stability. They are here to destroy everything you have built. General Rax's flagship dominated the viewscreen like a predator sizing up prey. The reptilian commander's transmission came through with barely restrained aggression. Unity Station is hereby declared in violation of Galactic Council security protocols. You harbor forbidden knowledge and have corrupted loyal Council species with predecessor contamination. Surrender all personnel for quarantine or be destroyed. Anne opened a channel to all ships in the system, including Rax's fleet. General, we're not your enemy. We're teachers, scientists, people trying to help others understand something beautiful. You are children playing with weapons beyond your comprehension, Rax said. The predecessors vanished for a reason. Their knowledge destroyed them. It will destroy you and anyone foolish enough to follow your example. Kel's ships moved into position between Unity Station and Rax's fleet, a defensive formation though pitifully outnumbered. General Rax, you act without Council authorization. Stand down immediately. I act with the support of 6 Council members who understand the threat. You and your moderate faction have grown weak, afraid to make hard choices. I will cleanse this contamination before it spreads further. The student ships began activating weapons systems, their crews preparing to defend the station despite having no military training. Ruth saw it happening on sensors and her heart sank. Crystalline beings who communicated through light, aquatic species in pressurized ships, young civilizations barely capable of interstellar flight. They would all die trying to protect an idea they had learned only weeks ago. All student vessels stand down, Anne ordered. This isn't your fight. Tiv's response came immediately. With respect, Captain, you taught us that some things matter more than survival. You showed us that protecting others, even strangers, defines true civilization. How can we abandon those principles at the first real test? The other student ships echoed her sentiment. 30 voices from 15 species, all willing to die for beings they barely knew. David gripped the edge of his console. "Anne, they're going to get slaughtered. Rax's fleet has weapons that could vaporize this entire system." "I know." Anne's mind raced through scenarios, discarding each as hopeless. Unity Station had minimal defenses, designed as a place of learning rather than war. The Wanderer could fight, but one ship against 30 was suicide mathematics. Hannah's translator system suddenly lit up with activity. "Captain, I'm receiving transmissions, a lot of them, from everywhere." The sensor display transformed. FTL signatures appeared across the system, dozens at first, then hundreds. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, emerging from the void in formations that suggested they had been waiting, watching. "Those are the independent species," Ruth said, disbelief in her voice. "The ones who came asking for help. They brought their fleets." A transmission came through from a ship whose design looked like organic bone fused with crystal technology. The being on screen resembled a tree with consciousness, bark patterns forming something like a face. "Captain Bishop, I am Keeper Sohm of the Viridian Collective. Your species helped mine understand the trials, helped us learn that strength means protecting the vulnerable. We remember that lesson." More ships appeared. A fleet from a machine civilization, artificial intelligences in bodies of living metal. Their spokesperson's voice sounded like music through static. "We attempted the trial 3 times before seeking your guidance. 3 times we failed because we calculated survival probabilities rather than recognizing the value of individual existence. You taught us to choose differently. We stand with you." Rax's formation wavered as his tactical officers surely screamed warnings about the odds shifting against them. The general's face appeared on screen again, scales flushing darker with rage. "You gather mongrels and outcasts, species too weak or too foolish to understand council authority. This proves my point. You threaten stability itself." "No," Kell said, their voice carrying an authority Ruth had not heard before. "They prove that the council has failed. We created an order based on fear and control. We quarantined knowledge instead of sharing it. We told species to ignore opportunities for growth because we were afraid of what they might become. Humanity showed us a better way, not through conquest or superiority, but through genuine desire to help others succeed." Kell's ships moved, repositioning themselves alongside the independent fleets. A statement that carried weight beyond military significance. "You betray the council," Rax snarled. "I serve the council's true purpose, to help civilizations thrive. If that purpose has been lost, then perhaps it is time to reclaim it." The system filled with ships now, nearly 400 vessels from species spanning the galactic fringe. Not an organized military force, but a coalition born from shared experience and mutual respect. Many were small, some barely armed. But together they represented something the Council had not seen in millennia: unity without coercion. Anne made a choice that would either save everyone or doom them all. She activated the predecessor communication system embedded in Unity Station. "General Rax, you want to destroy us because you fear change. I understand that. Change is terrifying. But the predecessors faced that fear 3 million years ago and made the wrong choice. They tried to achieve perfection through transcendence and lost their souls in the process. They left these trials hoping someone would choose differently. Humanity did. These other species did. We chose connection over isolation, growth over stagnation, compassion over fear." She paused, letting the words sink in across every channel. "You can destroy us. Your weapons are strong enough, but you cannot destroy the idea. Hundreds of species have learned that true strength means protecting others. That intelligence includes emotional wisdom. That the most advanced civilizations measure themselves by who they save, not who they conquer. That knowledge is spreading, General. Attacking us only proves we are right." Rax's ships held position, weapons charged but not firing. Seconds stretched into minutes. Ruth watched the tactical display, counting heartbeats. Finally, Rax spoke. "The Council will hear of this, all of it, your corruption of loyal species, the betrayal of High Arbiter Kell, the gathering of unauthorized forces in neutral space. There will be consequences. There already are, Anne said. The galaxy is changing. You can help guide that change, or you can watch it happen without you, but you cannot stop it. Rax's fleet engaged FTL drives and vanished, running rather than fighting. The Independent Coalition maintained position, protecting Unity Station until the last enemy signature disappeared. Tiv's voice came through the comm, filled with something that sounded like wonder. We did it. We stood together and survived. No, Anne said gently. You did more than survive. You proved that the principles matter, that they work in practice. Not just philosophy. That beings from different worlds with different biologies and different cultures can choose cooperation when it would be easier to choose fear. Over the following weeks, the galaxy divided. 4 council species formally withdrew, joining the independent coalition that began calling itself the Accord. 7 remained with the traditional council, though their internal debates grew increasingly heated. The remaining species took positions somewhere between, watching to see which system would prove more stable. Unity Station expanded. More species sent students. More teachers arrived, not just human but beings from civilizations that had passed their own trials. The curriculum grew to include philosophies and perspectives from across known space, creating a synthesis of wisdom that enriched everyone who studied it. Ruth found Anne in the observation dome 6 months after the confrontation with Rax. Earth hung in the distance, visible through the FTL relay network. Hayes sent a message. The UN voted. Earth is joining the Accord officially. We are apparently a founding member despite being the newest spacefaring species. Anne smiled. How is your daughter? Growing up fast. She wants to visit the station, wants to meet beings from other worlds. Ruth hesitated. Anne, we changed everything. The galactic order that stood for millennia is fracturing because 40 humans answered a signal they were told to ignore. Do you regret it? Not even a little, but I wonder what the predecessors think. They have been watching all of this. As if summoned by the question, the light being materialized in the dome. Its form had become familiar over the months, though no less awe-inspiring. We think you have exceeded every hope we held when we built the trials. We designed them to find one species worthy of our legacy. Instead, you created a movement, a coalition based not on our technology but on your principles. What happens now? Anne asked. Now you continue teaching, learning, growing. The trials remain active across all 7 galaxies. More species will attempt them. Some will succeed, many will fail. But for the first time in 3 million years, we have hope. Not hope that you will replace us or become like us, but hope that you will remain exactly what you are. Imperfect, compassionate, endlessly curious beings who choose connection despite its cost. The being began to fade, its purpose served. Before disappearing completely, it left them with final words. The signal was never meant for humans. It was meant for anyone willing to answer. You answered not just with words, but with choices that proved your words true. That is why you succeeded where all others failed. Remember that. Teach that. The galaxy needs species willing to answer the hard questions, even when the answers are terrifying. Ruth and Anne stood together in the observation dome, watching ships arrive and depart. Students from worlds they had never heard of 6 months ago. Teachers sharing wisdom accumulated across millions of years. All of them learning that true civilization is built not on technology or conquest, but on the choice to care about beings beyond yourself. The signal continued broadcasting across the cosmos, waiting for the next species brave enough or foolish enough to answer. And on Unity Station, humans and their allies worked to ensure that when those species arrived, they would not face the trials alone.